Hi, Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Risings. Welcome to your July 2022 horoscope. My name is Cailin, and today I'm going to be covering the major transits ahead using tropical astrology and the whole sign system. I strongly recommend that if you're only going to watch one horoscope today, that it be your ascendant sign, otherwise known as your rising sign horoscope. Having said that, if you've got time to watch your sun and moon sign as well, I would do so because watching all three will give you a very well-rounded idea of what you can expect for the month ahead. Your sun sign horoscope will tell you more about your career and your life goals, whereas your moon sign horoscope will tell you more about your relationships, your property and living circumstances, as well as your family life and your emotional health and well-being. And now let's get into your reading. On the 2nd of July, Mars in Aries in your 11th house is going to make a square to Pluto in Capricorn in your 8th house, and this will be at 27 degrees. If you can cast your mind back to around the 3rd of March earlier this year, this will give you a little bit of an insight into what you can expect. And that is because on the 3rd of March this year, Pluto and Mars formed a conjunction at 27 degrees Capricorn. So this is actually the opening square. When Mars and Pluto form a hard aspect together, the result can be that we feel quite emotionally disturbed, or that we just have like a lot of intense thoughts, and we might be ruminating on things that upset us or anger us. But having said that, you can use this energy to do some digging into your subconscious. So essentially, this square can allow you to either confront someone or try to reclaim your power if you feel like your power has been stripped away from you. So, on a deeper level, you may be experiencing an inner state of conflict when it comes to your long term goals or what you want for yourself in the long run. Now, I'm saying this because Mars in your 11th house and being the ruler of your 11th house represents your long term goals and dreams. So, for some of you, you may be experiencing frustration or feeling quite angry or agitated about the pace at which you are able to achieve your long term goals and dreams. So maybe you're feeling frustrated about things that happen to be outside of your control, or that you feel are getting in the way of your plans. Now, your 11th house represents your friends, your wider network, and also your social media platforms. So, on one level, this can see some of you discovering a secret about a friend, or perhaps a secret is revealed about you. And I'm saying this because the 8th house represents secrets and that which is hidden, and Pluto as a planet also represents secrets. So you may experience someone having broken your trust, or you may discover that someone has broken your trust. And I don't want to freak you guys out. You know, we experience Mars and Pluto squares every year. I think the last one was around September or October. Nevertheless, this can see there being a need for you to protect your passwords when it comes to your social media platforms. And I'm saying that because Mars square Pluto can carry the energy of someone trying to work against us. And Pluto in your 8th house represents your mutual resources, whereas Mars in your 11th house represents these social media accounts and platforms that you may need to be protecting. So, ways that you can do that would be changing your passwords before we get to the start of July. And also, you may want to enable two-factor authentication processes. My dad works in IT security, so here I am giving you some tips. Now, on a different note, the 11th house represents your friends, and Mars here I can see you cutting someone out of your life. So this could be a friend. This could actually just be you going through your social media platforms and unfollowing people, unfriending people, or perhaps you might be removing followers from your accounts. Um, on a different note, this can see you working on long-term projects and plans and having to ask someone to utilize their resources or borrow their resources. And I'm saying this because Pluto represents mutual resources. Pluto in the eighth house also represents mutual resources, and perhaps you need to um, ask someone to assist you in some way, but this could be something that you feel a lot of resistance to. So maybe you feel like if you ask this person or if you engage assistance from a certain establishment, that they now have control over you, or maybe you feel like a sellout somehow by not doing this all by yourself. The spiritual purpose of Mars square Pluto is to essentially identify the root cause of why we are experiencing resistance, why we feel like other people have control over us, why we have our own compulsive need to control things in our lives, whether these are people, resources, or just, being quite for want of a better term, uptight. This can see you really having to delve into why you feel such a strong desire to control things in your vicinity or in your life. Now, on the 5th of July, Mars is going to enter the sign of Taurus, and it will be there until the 20th of August. So, with Mars in your 12th house, this can see you experiencing a psychological breakthrough. So, the 12th house represents addictions, fears, and self sabotaging behavior. I know we're starting off the month pretty heavy, but I promise there's also some more lighthearted transits later in the month. Nevertheless, this can see you getting to the root cause of a certain fear, or this could see you overcoming a fear or overcoming an addiction. Mars in the 12th house can be quite helpful in that way, as it allows us to identify when we are exhibiting self sabotaging behaviors. Now, this can see you working to eliminate medications or even substances that you are reliant upon, or you could even just be reducing these, even if you are not eliminating them completely. The 12th house represents pharmaceuticals and substances of all kinds. So it could be that you're working with your doctor or with a health professional to wean yourself off certain medications. Or it could be that you have a drug habit or addiction that you want to overcome, or maybe you just don't like how much alcohol you're drinking and you want to reduce your intake or cut alcohol out of your life altogether. On a different note, the 12th house is connected to yoga and meditation, and wherever Mars goes, this is where we are putting our energy and our focus. So you could be doing a lot of meditation practice. You could be practicing yoga a lot or attending yoga classes. And this is actually the ideal form of activity that you should be pursuing during this 5 or 6 week period, because this will be the most helpful for you in that you're utilizing this Mars energy. You may find that having that uh, raw, explosive energy that you would normally need to, say, go to the gym or go and do boxing or go for a run may not be available to you during this 6 week period of time. And that is because Mars is in your 12th house. So it does take a bit of the shine off of your energy levels and your vitality. And that's why I'm recommending that you gear your energy or channel it towards things which are already connected to the 12th house. Now, lastly, with this transit, the 12th house represents divination, spirituality, astrology, and things like astral travel. So you could be putting your energy into these matters. Maybe you're trying to learn as much as you can about astrology or some sort of divinatory practice or spiritual practice. And of course, with Mars ruling over your sixth house, which represents your daily habits, routines, and your health, this can see you trying to perhaps integrate yoga practice into your daily routine or your weekly routine, or that could be, doing meditation every day for 5 or 10 minutes. And some of you may have a big breakthrough when it comes to your health. So you may get to the root cause of some sort of mystery illness, disease, or ailment during this period of time. Now, on the 13th of July, we're going to see Venus in Gemini in your first house, making a trine to Saturn in Aquarius in your ninth house. And this will occur at 24 degrees. So anytime we have a planet in your first house in Gemini making an aspect to another planet, you are going to feel it more strongly. Now, this can see you committing to some sort of education program. And I'm saying this because Saturn represents your commitment to something. The ninth house is connected to education. So this could see you taking on a long-term education commitment, or it could be one which requires a lot of consistency, repetition, or dedication. So even if it's not long term, it could be a very intensive program. So, just as an example, maybe you are having to attend an education facility 4 or 5 times a week for a short period of time, but the hours could be very long. So that's just a different way that this could play out. Now, Saturn will be retrograde at the time of this trine. So this could see you having a second chance at entering into some sort of educational program, or perhaps you are recommitting to becoming a teacher. The ninth house in astrology is also connected to spiritual and religious ceremonies and practices. So you could become reacquainted with a belief system that you have either followed before or been exposed to before, and maybe now you finally get it. Rather than just going through the motions, perhaps this has now become a very uh, a very big part of your life, and maybe you are committing to this in some way. It could even be in an official capacity as well. Now, on a different note, you may be entering into a mentor or mentee relationship. Whether you or one or the other will depend on your own personal horoscope, or you could just be receiving help or assistance from someone in a position of power or influence, and this could be someone that you really respect. Now, lastly, with the ninth house representing travel opportunities, you could have a travel opportunity crop up around the 13th of July, which is connected to career, or this could be in order for you to educate others, or you could be engaging in some sort of exchange program, or maybe you're traveling to help an elderly person or to do some sort of ministry of service. Maybe you are dedicating yourself to helping people who um, who need some extra support in some way, shape, or form. Now, on the 17th/18th of July, depending where you live in the world, Venus is going to enter the sign of Cancer, which means it will be transiting your second house, and it will be there until the 11th of August. So, wherever Venus goes, this is where we can experience some sort of flow or joy, or just pleasant and pleasurable experiences. Now, Venus is the natural ruler of the second house, although in your horoscope, Gemini, it rules over your 12th house and your fifth house. So I'm mentioning this because Venus likes transiting the second house as it is. So this can see you spending money on or investing in things like self-care, pampering yourself, beautifying yourself. Maybe you are giving yourself a makeover or getting a new haircut, or you could be purchasing some sort of valuable or possession which could bring you a lot of joy. Now, because Venus rules over your 12th house, it could be that you are spending money on something to do with spirituality, or for creative purposes. Maybe you're going to be buying a camera. That's really funny because I'm a Gemini rising. I just realized I've been planning on buying a new camera. Anyway, this can see you enjoying nature, gardening, cooking, singing, just enjoying the five senses, essentially. And lastly, this can see you receiving a gift from a lover or from your child, as represented by Venus ruling over the fifth house, or perhaps you're receiving gifts from students of yours or pupils of yours. And of course, with Venus ruling over your 12th house, this could see you receiving a gift or money, by the way, it doesn't need to be a gift, anonymously. Now, on the 28th/29th of July, Jupiter is going to station retrograde in the sign of Aries at 8 degrees, and this will be in your 11th house. So basically, Jupiter has been in your 11th house since the 10th of May. So we're going to track back over the last, 3 months to look at what you have learned since then, what you have experienced since then, what you have tried to initiate since then. And for some of you, you could be going back over these things and trying to integrate that knowledge, or you could be doubling down on what you've learned to learn it more on a more intrinsic level. Or perhaps you had the initial kernel of an idea or the spark of a new business idea or something that you want to do for work, and now it's time for you to do that work to get there. And I'm saying that because Jupiter rules over your 10th house, which represents your career. So with Jupiter being retrograde in the 11th house, the area of focus could be on events, groups, communities, long-term projects, new innovations, inventions and innovations. You could be focusing on expanding your wider network, meeting more people, making more acquaintances, or expanding your social media platform further. And the 11th house is also connected to our long-term gains. So this is a money house in astrology. So you could be working on passive or residual income, setting up a retirement fund, or going through the emotions to start receiving the pension. You could be looking at receiving a scholarship or some sort of rebate from the government or an institution. And of course, the 11th house is also connected to rents, royalties, and dividends. So I know that's a lot to take in, but at the crux of it, we're looking at how you can work on these areas to expand them further, which will in turn give you a greater sense of freedom and lead to more knowledge and the increase of your own wealth and abundance. So Jupiter is going to be retrograde until the 23rd of November, but it's going to retrograde into Pisces for a little bit. So Jupiter will re-enter the sign of Aries on the 20th of December this year. So that means that from the 20th of December, it's go time. Whatever you wanted to initiate, whatever you wanted to introduce into your life, whether this is forming a new group or community, working on a new long-term project, orchestrating some sort of event, creating something new, whether this is an invention or perhaps you are looking at generating residual income, all of these things can be achieved once we get to, let's just call it 2023, because Jupiter will retrograde back and then it's going to go forward. So we can't get the full benefit of Jupiter until it has gone back over those first 8 degrees. But essentially, Jupiter can bestow its blessing once it's done in a sign altogether. So Jupiter will leave Aries for another 12 years in May 2023. Now, the last transit for the month happens to be the most exciting, and that is the Uranus North Node and Mars conjunction in Taurus in your 12th house. So First of all, Uranus and the North Node only form this conjunction once every 15 to 16 years. So this conjunction will take place at 18 degrees Taurus in your 12th house. Now, Mars will be trailing behind a little bit at 17 degrees Taurus. So it's still really close. And that's why it's important that we analyze the influence of Mars on this particular conjunction. So because this is in your 12th house, this can see you inventing or innovating or creating something new. Now, this can see you having a sudden download of information, which can come through in a dream. It can come through during meditation or yoga, or while you're creating art, or even whilst you're under the influence of something. So basically, the energy of Uranus, the North Node, and Mars is very progressive. It's about inventing something new, being very experimental and exploratory. This can see us wanting to break outside of the mold, and whichever house it falls into, this is where we're doing that. So essentially, this can see you pursuing astrology or pursuing a career in yoga or meditation, or some sort of long term goal or dream that you have for these areas. This can see you working on an art project or a scientific project. And for some of you, this could be you starting to act in a new TV series or film. So we're looking at acting, photography, filmography, but also the 12th house is connected to pharmaceuticals and medication and substances. So this could see you developing some sort of new substance, or you could be working in the medical industry on something which has not yet been revealed to the public. And that is because the 12th house rules over that which is hidden and unseen. So, whatever it is that you are starting on the 31st of July, plus or minus a couple of weeks, this could be something which you're not like shouting from the rooftops, or it could take a while before you actually reveal this to the people in your life. Now, because this is a 15-year cycle, you're not necessarily going to see the full effects, on the 31st of July. It could take years for you to create this thing or innovate this thing. And for some of you, with Mars ruling over your 11th house, which represents the stock market, cryptocurrencies, and like I said earlier, residual income and passive income. Maybe you're looking at ways to invest in your future, and these nuggets of wisdom could come through in a very secretive manner. It could be an anonymous tip. Some of you could actually be joining or forming a secret community, or one which is highly involved with anything to do with divination and the occult. And lastly, the 12th house is connected to foreign, faraway lands, as well as sacred texts and scripture. So you could be basically, it's going to sound crazy. I was going to say creating a new religion or developing a new religion or spiritual community, but let me put that in less like out there terms. Maybe you receive a sudden download of information that no one seems to have spoken on yet or done anything with this information. So it could be that you're sort of like the mouthpiece for this epiphany or this realization that you have. And maybe you are meeting with like-minded people, whether that's in person or whether that is online, and you could be discussing these matters. So it is a very exciting transit. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a Gemini rising, so I am very excited to see how this plays out for me as well. Nevertheless, That's all I have for you for today, Gemini. So if you enjoyed this horoscope, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content on this channel, please hit the subscribe button. Enjoy your month ahead, Gemini, and I will see you in August.